and welcome back everyone to the video series Dedicate Show on MTV that is rushing to get to the champs portion of this season. At least that's what the running theory is, given the random double episode on this past Wednesday's night, as well as taking a look at the ratings of the first two episodes, and it seems as though that the champions portion will be happening in the very next episode, in episode 5. But I'm jumping ahead of myself with those theories. We have 2 episodes worth of content to go over in this review and recap, so let's waste no time jumping into where last episode left off, and that was James winning against Chauncey in the Might Light elimination. James is coming back, he's excited, and this is where we see the sparks between James and Mariah happening, but nothing happens in episode 3. All of that happens in episode 4, so we're gonna put a pin in that. Let's now jump to a conversation between Jay, Ed, Emmanuel, Michelle, and Callum talking about Raven. Now, last episode, after Chauncey was decided to be the house vote, Raven ran over to Kieran to give him the heads up that he is going to pick a UK guy. It could be you, so just be ready. And that put a giant target on Raven's back for this episode. We even see the next day after Chef T was cooking up steaks for the whole house, she was getting the cold shoulder from a lot of people, including her alliance members, her Challenge 38 alliance members. After everybody's stomachs were full of steak, they decided they were gonna have a hot tub dance party. And we saw Emmanuel, we saw Asaf dancing, we even saw Berna dancing. But this is when the night takes a turn. When Berna is dancing, she notices in the hot tub, Melissa turns over to Big T and they start to laugh. Berna feels like that was directed towards her. That makes Berna feel like she is being bullied by Melissa and even confronts Melissa about this, saying that she feels bullied by Melissa, which then Melissa takes huge offense towards because Melissa herself says that while growing up, she was bullied and she would never want to be a bully to anybody, and we see them kind of get in each other's faces. The whole thing ends with the two women separated and Berna on her way out the door into the fresh air. She is knocking over fruit, she's breaking lamps, and then her and Emmanuel are talking on a bench and Emmanuel is consoling her. I wouldn't personally say that that was bullying by Melissa. Maybe she was making some comments under her breath to Big T. Maybe they were kind of gossiping back and forth, but we don't know for certain. I think it is more on Berna's paranoia in the game and how she feels she is being viewed by everyone else. That is kind of getting to her. I mean, we saw what happened in episode 1 where she felt like she was the outcast, and I don't think she was able to shake that feeling up to this point. So I feel like it's more on Berna and how she's feeling. But that's how the night ends, and everybody wakes up the next morning, dons their challenge gear to meet up with TJ for this week's daily challenge called Control Tower, where 2 players will be tasked to solve 4 equations. After each equation is solved, they have to run it up the tower to the person on the mic to then direct all the drivers where to park to recreate the answer. They have 4 equations. If they can get all 4 equations solved and replicated by the drivers within 30 minutes, they will win $50,000 in the prize fund. I'll be honest, I was not a huge fan of this daily challenge. Now, I do like that this was a puzzle and it was much different of a puzzle than we've seen on the challenge prior to this season. However, when you have a cast of like 22 people and half the cast is doing little to nothing in the daily challenge, it doesn't make any sense to me. Only 2 people can solve the equation, only 1 person is on the mic, and then there are 8 drivers. There's people up in the control tower that aren't doing much of anything. Realistically, you have half the cast doing something that is pertinent to the daily challenge, while the other half of players are just sitting in the cars as passengers, kind of just waiting for the challenge to be over. Again, I give them an A for creativity and effort, but when it comes to everybody on the team having something to do, it's not a great daily challenge. But this is the first daily challenge that they were actually able to get accomplished within the time limit. They were able to solve all 4 equations, recreate all 4 answers within the allotted time. Thus, they scored the full $50,000 in the prize fund. They have $356,000. Everybody's on cloud 9 That is until TJ tells them, congratulations, but now you have to go back to the challenge house and nominate somebody to go into this week's elimination. Let's now go to the bar scene, where we see Jay warn Michelle about Callum and how smart he is. Jay, I think, is nervous about Michelle and Callum's relationship. I think Jay is worried at this point of maybe Michelle's head isn't fully in the game and she is too much into this relationship with Callum. And maybe he's wondering where he sits in her hierarchy. I mean, she does reassure him that you're my number one. No matter what, you're my number one, Jay. But I think Jay knows more than anybody that a relationship in the challenge house can fog your mind up and could be a potential risk later on in the game. We see Emmanuel talk to Berna and tell her that, hey, it's your name and Raven's name that's circulating around the house the most. Berna feels shocked by this. And speaking of Raven, this is where we see her do an apology tour around the bar. But is it a little too late for Raven to get in everybody's good graces? We're going to have to wait and see. Before the deliberation, we see a conversation between Melissa and Berna, and they bury the hatchet with each other. They talk about their argument from the night prior, they apologize, and they're pretty cool with each other heading into the deliberation, where in the deliberation, Raven is in the hot seat. She doesn't give as bad of a deliberation speech as we've seen in prior episodes, in episode 1 and episode 2, but it wasn't the best presentation, as we hear from some of the challengers saying she was monotone and rambling, and her speech didn't have much substance to it. And then we hear from Berna, who apologizes and also says that she is still working on herself. She is a valuable member to the team, so please don't pick me and vote me into this week's elimination. Now, this next portion really kind of makes me angry. Maybe angry is not the right word. It annoys me. The next moment we hear is this plan that the women have cooked up that they don't want to say any women's names in the elimination. They would rather burn vote on random guys and give full power to the men, because to them, there's only two real options on the board. It's either Berna or Raven. Why get our hands messy? Instead, give all the power to the men. And we hear from Jay and Coriel, who is being told this message by Mariah and Zara, and they don't like it. Jay is skeptical, saying, oh, so you're trying to flip it and make it a guy's day? And all the women are like, no, we're gonna burn vote. We want all the men to vote. And Coriel is then saying, well, if it's all in our hands, maybe we'll decide who we want to go into elimination. It doesn't have to just be Berna or Raven. We could vote for anybody if it's in our hands and you guys are willing to give up your voting power in the burn vote. And we hear in episode 4 that Coriel then went to some of the men kind of throwing out Zara and getting feelers of, what if we say Zara's name instead of either Raven or Berna? Honestly, I hate burn votes. This plan was, in my opinion, not that smart. I don't like it as an audience member. I don't like it in the game sense. I understand why they did it, but I think it's also dumb. We go to the arena. All the women burn vote on men except for Raven, as Raven and all the men vote for Raven to go into the elimination. Clearly, this elimination was going to be physical, so Raven had the opportunity to see the elimination, look up at all the women, and decide who she wanted to pick to play against. And she decided that she was going to pick Huhui. So in this week's elimination, we have Raven versus Huhui in Dirty Deeds. In this elimination is like a pole wrestle variance where the two women will run to the center of the arena, try to uncover 3 objects. You're trying to get 2 of those objects in your bin in 1 round to win the round. Best 2 rounds out of 3 will win the whole elimination and stay in the game while the other player is eliminated. I thought this elimination was fun. It wasn't just a regular pole wrestle, which how can you go wrong with the classics though? I kind of wish they were just doing a regular pole wrestle, but I thought this variance made things interesting, especially in the first round where both women were able to get 1 object each, and it came down to the 3rd and last object where Hui got the first round. Raven, after losing the first round, was able to focus up, get a good strategy, and she was able to dominate the next 2 rounds, getting 2 objects to none each time. She was physical, she was keeping her eyes on Huhui, which she wasn't doing in the first round, and Raven came to play. She did a great job. Huhui is very sweet, and TJ even said that she is the sweetest person to ever play the challenge, which I very much agree with him. I was hoping this was going to be a good, tough elimination, and honestly, Huhui surprised me getting the first round. I thought maybe she could pull the upset on Raven, but alas, she was unable to, and Raven was able to win the elimination 2 rounds to nothing, and coming back to the challenge house, Raven is happy, but she knows that she needs to watch what she says around the house. She knows what got her in trouble the first time, and she's going to be cognizant of how she comes off to people. Next conversation we see is Zara and Horacio, and Zara is wanting to push Corey L's name of being the house vote next. As I mentioned prior, Corey L was pushing Zara's name after the whole burn vote plan was said to him. He threw out Zara's name as possibly let's vote her in, and so Zara can't trust Corey L. She wants to send him into the next elimination. But before we can get to the elimination, let's get to episode 4's daily challenge, which is called Under Control. This is a water-based daily challenge where players are going to have to swim to collect puzzle pieces that are underneath the water. Then they have to swim those puzzle pieces to a puzzle block, complete the puzzle block with all the puzzle pieces. Once the puzzle block is filled completely with puzzle pieces, they will swim to connect that puzzle block to a barge. If they can get all 5 puzzle blocks solved and connected to the barge, and everybody gets on the barge, and if they can do all of that in 15 minutes, they will bank another $50,000 in the prize fund. Now, majority of these players are competent swimmers. There are a few players that aren't necessarily the best swimmers, as we see Nerys and Melissa and Berna kind of struggle at first to possibly get their puzzle pieces, but despite the struggles, both Berna and Melissa were able to retrieve their puzzle pieces underneath the water and swim it to a puzzle block. However, Nerys is the only person who needed help to get her puzzle piece from under the water. Luckily, Ed, whose now nickname is Aquaman, was able to help her out and get her puzzle piece for her. There were 4 players who got more than one puzzle piece, and that was Ed, Kieran, Jay, and Emmanuel. They put in overtime to ensure all these puzzle pieces were collected. I thought it was going to be close. I thought it was going to be close, given 15 minutes to complete all of this, and it was close. But they were able to work as a team, get all the puzzle pieces, all the puzzle blocks, connect them to the barge, and get on the barge within the time limit. I think they had 3 seconds to spare when they finally hit that button, and TJ rang the foghorn, signifying that they did in fact win, and they did in fact bank $50,000 in the prize fund. Yet again, they are on a 2 daily challenge winning streak at this point, and the prize fund is now over $400,000. And again, everybody is on cloud 9 except for the men. As TJ says, everybody has to go back to the challenge house, vote in a man to go into this week's elimination, because it has to be a men's elimination week. Now, coming back to the challenge house, everybody puts the game on pause to celebrate Big T and to throw her a coming out / being yourself party. So for majority of the night, everybody puts their games aside, put game talk to the side to celebrate Big T and her big announcement, and they just decide to celebrate, have a good time, jumping in the pool, having s'mores, have some cake. They do a most likely to party game where Huey tries to spice things up, but maybe goes a little too far, or touches a nerve with one of the cast members when he tries to suggest who is most likely to cheat on their partner back home, which we all know what's going on with Callum. He feels like that is hitting too close to home for him, and I think this is where Huey's game is spiraling in the minds of certain players, because maybe he's talking a little too much for everyone's liking. We even saw that at the daily challenge where Huey was trying to help in the strategizing, and it was kind of getting on some people's nerves. Speaking of Callum has a conversation with Michelle, being vulnerable with her, saying his true feelings for her, but even him saying all this vulnerable stuff to Michelle and how he feels about her, it still feels a little murky because he has a girlfriend back home that I'm sure he is still talking to and having phone calls with in the confessional room, so that's not great. Speaking of having somebody back home, we see Mariah and James spending quality time with each other. At this point, Mariah was spending a lot of time with Johnny Bananas, says that they didn't make anything official. Even though that they were hanging out, going on dates, enjoying each other's companies, they weren't officially boyfriend and girlfriend. So they were like kind of exclusive, but casually dating each other for a good chunk of time. But we see Mariah and James have some cuddles in the bed, put that in quotes because it looks like they do more than cuddling. And we see that Mariah is also having some struggles with her pursuing James, knowing that she has Johnny Bananas back home. But Nerys is trying to be there for her and try to help calm her down. Now, the next day we go to the deliberation where we hear that Coriel and Huey's name is being tossed out as possible nominees to be sent into this week's elimination. All the men decide that it's fair if they go around and say why they should stay in the game and why they are a helpful asset to the team. So all the men are going one by one, talking about how strong they are, how team-oriented they are, how good they are in daily challenges, and they're just bolstering each other up. We get to Coriel, who is trying to put himself in a good light. Zara makes a noise. Coriel then tries to explain his rationale about why he said Zara's name. Zara feels like Coriel is a smooth talker. Eventually, he does apologize to her off camera, and she accepts his apology, but will never forget that he said her name and tried to get her into elimination. Now, after the deliberation ceremony, we see a group of people huddled in a room talking about the options of whether they should go with Coriel, Huey, and then they decide to say James's name at the right exact moment that Callum was passing the room. Here's James' name being said by a group of 8 people, it looks like, and Callum rushes over to James to tell him that your name is being said by certain people, and James is going nuts. He is so angry that he could possibly be seeing yet another elimination and could possibly be the vote this time, but this is where everybody dons their challenge gear, meets up with TJ in the arena, where the vote is not James, but Huey. Huey gets 15 votes, while 6 men get 1 vote each. So it's pretty much a landslide for Huey to be the vote, and looking around, he decides to choose Kyland. So for episode 4's elimination, we have Huey versus Kyland in the How I Roll elimination, where players are going to have to use a rotating track to try to sink in 9 balls into 9 different baskets. The first person to sink all 9 balls will win this elimination, get to stay in the game while the other player is eliminated right at the end of the first stage of this game, the control phase, and they will not see the chaos stage. Now, I have to say that this was actually a very simple elimination, but I liked this elimination. It was a physical elimination, but it was also a puzzle. I think that this was a very even elimination that either Kyland or Huey could have won. When it came down to it, Huey picked the most calculated person in the house. I feel like this was the worst possible decision Huey could have made on who to choose to go into the elimination against in this specific elimination, because this was all about physics. I feel like this could have been in Kyland's wheelhouse. I mean, this is something I feel like we would have seen on Big Brother, and Kyland did great in those Big Brother competitions. But it still was relatively close by the end, where we had Kyland sinking his 9 balls and Huey had sunk 6. So by a score of 9-6, Kyland was able to win this elimination against Huey. Huey, sadly, was eliminated in episode 4. Kyland gave Huey a lot of props because he was close. I mean, they were kind of neck and neck at one point, and it could have been a lot closer if Huey could have gotten the cadence down, maybe was a little bit more efficient, shaved off some seconds when he missed some of those balls if he ran with it. But Huey was eliminated from the game while Kyland got to stay in this game. And this is when TJ tells everybody that the next stage of the game is just around the corner. Chaos is about to begin. And the final shot, it looks to be 2 champions in the tunnel about to run out into the arena. And again, that's the theory, that we got 2 episodes this week so we could streamline the game and get to the chaos portion and the champs portion of the game, which I'm very excited about. I mean, I'll take more content in one night if we can get to the champs and everything. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next episode, in the next portion, how we're going to kick off the chaos portion of this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. But that is it for this week's review and recap video for The Challenge Season 39 Battle for a New Champion. What'd you think about these episodes? Let me know down in the comment section below. What'd you think about having 2 episodes in one night? Was it too much challenge for you, or was it not enough? Let me know down in the comment section below. What'd you think about the daily challenges? What'd you think about the eliminations? Were you sad to see Huey and Huhui both be eliminated this week? Let me know anything and everything down in the comment section below. Are you excited that we're going to be seeing champs next week? Let me know your feelings down in the comment section below. I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who is watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really soon with more Challenge 39 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.